Hello YouTubers, welcome back to Edification 360 Degrees on Sale. This is Economic and Management Sciences, grade 7, and the topic for this video is traditional societies and bartering. Economic and Management Sciences, in short EMS, is a new subject since you are starting with grade 7. It was not there previously in the intermediate phase. And so just a quick brief of what is Economic and Management Sciences as a subject and what does it entail. Economic and Management Sciences is a practical subject that has 3 things at the core. It deals with accounting, entrepreneurship, and financial literacy. What is accounting? Accounting is how your business records, organizes, and understands its financial information. Entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is the act of setting up a business or businesses, taking on a financial risk in hope of making a profit. Every business that opens wants to make a profit. No business wants to make a loss. I'm sure you're wondering what is a profit, what is a loss. Don't you worry. As we go on, I will explain what those 2 terminologies mean. Thirdly, financial literacy. What is financial literacy? Financial literacy is the knowledge that is necessary, so the knowledge that you need to make important financial decisions, such as saving, investment, debt, credit, and personal finance. And so that is what Economic and Management Sciences as a subject is all about. For term 1, the focus is on the economy and entrepreneurship. Under the economy, we look at the history of money, and with this topic, we'll be looking at traditional societies and bartering, the development of money, the role of money. Secondly, we'd look into needs and wants. Under needs and wants, we look at types of needs, primary and secondary needs, limited resources to satisfy needs and wants. Thirdly, we look into goods and services. Under goods and services, we look at goods and services, producers and consumers, the role of households as producers and consumers, using goods and services efficiently and effectively, and how to recycle and reuse products to satisfy our needs and wants. And under entrepreneurship, we look into the topic of businesses. Under businesses, we look at formal and informal businesses, types of businesses in formal and informal sector, the advantages and disadvantages of formal and informal businesses, the role of formal and informal businesses as producers and consumers. Lastly, the effect of natural disasters and health epidemics on formal and informal businesses. For term 1, under the history of money, we look at the following. 1. Traditional societies and bartering. 2. Development of money. 3. The role of money. Under the history of money, we look at the following. 1. Traditional societies and bartering. 2. Before we get started with this topic of traditional societies and bartering, just sit and think. What was life like without money? Society. What is a society? A society is a group of individuals that are living together as a community. And so there are 2 types of societies. You have a traditional society and a modern society. A traditional society is a small-scale society that derives from indigenous and ancient cultural practices. For example, the San and the Khoi Khoi, those are examples of traditional societies. A modern society. A modern society is a large-scale society that is industrialized. Industrialized meaning that it has developed a lot when it comes to the industry. Society. What is a society? A society is a group of individuals. Traditional societies. A traditional society is a small-scale society that derives from indigenous and ancient cultural practices. The two groups that we look into are the San and the Khoikhoi. Both these groups, we say that they were self-sufficient, meaning that they were able to make or find everything that they needed to satisfy their own needs. We say this because they would use ostrich eggs for water containers, bones were used for needles, wood and metals were used for arrows. They had basic needs. Their basic needs was water, food, shelter, and clothing. Modern societies. A modern society is a large-scale society that is industrialized. Industrialized meaning that it has developed a lot when it comes to the industry. A modern society is not self-sufficient, meaning that we are not able to make or find everything that we need to satisfy our own needs. Unlike the traditional societies. Unlike traditional societies, we pay for goods and services. We are dependent on other people's skills and knowledge. And also we have numerous consumption needs. Consumption needs is the need to eat, use, or buy goods. And now we move on into looking at the differences between a traditional and a modern society. In a traditional society, there's collective ownership, meaning that with regards to ownership, it is centered around a family, a tribe. Whereas in a modern society, it's more of a private ownership, meaning that it's centered around a particular individual. Secondly, there is no economic sphere in a traditional society, whereas in a modern society, there's quite a distinct economic sphere. Thirdly, a traditional society had few possessions. A possession, it's something that you have or something that you own. And so in a traditional society, they had few of those things that they owned. As a result, they had a similar standard of living. Whereas in a modern society, we find that people have many possessions. Hence, we end up having an unequal distribution of resources and wealth. Fourth and lastly, with regards to a traditional society, it was more of a human and an animal powered transportation. What does that mean? The Khoi and the San would actually walk from place A to place B, or they would actually use particular animals. Whereas in a modern society, we are looking at a more machine powered transportation. For example, the cars that we use, the helicopters. Looking closely at the economy of a traditional society, the economy of a modern society. In a traditional society, firstly, the production is for themselves, whereas in a modern society, the production is for profit and for growth. Secondly, in a traditional society, they were more about bartering. Bartering was the exchanging of goods. And so let's say you wanted to exchange an apple for an orange, and this was without the use of money. Whereas in a modern society, there's exchanging of goods and services for money. Thirdly, in a traditional society, the tasks are interdependent, meaning that tasks were performed by all members of a group. It was a joint effort to reach a particular goal or particular success. Whereas in a modern society, your tasks are interdependent on people's skills and people's knowledge. And when we speak about this knowledge, this is tertiary education, knowledge that they would get from a tertiary education. Fourthly, the economic activities. Economic activity of a traditional society looks more into primary activities, and these primary activities are hunting, gathering, agriculture, and fishing. Whereas in a modern society, it becomes more complex because our economic activities looks into primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary activities. These activities include the following: hunting, gathering, farming, fishing, forestry, mining, commercial farming, providing clerk services, health services, entertainment services. Looking close is bartering. Bartering is the exchanging of goods and services without the use of money. And how did this start? When people began to stay in certain areas for a longer period of time, they started to cultivate the land, and soon they would have more of a certain product than what their family needed or need to use at that stage. And then they looked for opportunities to trade this surplus product for another product which they needed. And so this was the beginning of bartering. Bartering came with a few challenges. The first challenge of bartering was that it was difficult to determine whether one product which was to be exchanged or swapped for another product was of the same value or of the same quantity. The second challenge is that it was difficult to find someone who had what you wanted and who was interested in what you had to offer. The third challenge that we look into is that bartering was time consuming because it was not easy to find someone who had what you needed. Thank you so much for joining us today as we're discussing traditional societies and bartering. And this is under Economic and Management Sciences. We are available on 5 different platforms as displayed on the screen. Be sure to subscribe, be sure to share with others. And remember, knowledge is power.